Oh, shh. Thank you. All right, let's call this meeting to order. It's 10 o'clock. Sarah, will you do a roll call?
Yes. Director Edwards?
Here?
Director Lindor?
Here.
Director Gawain has not arrived yet.
Shall we wait for her?
Hmm.
Oh, she can jump in. Okay, Sarah, now you've got me choking up. And do we have any guests on?
We do not have any members of the public.
Okay. And any additions or corrections from anybody?
No, there are none.
Perfect. So since there's no public, we can skip the comments from the public. What's that? I don't hear anything. Action items. Let's start with number one. Let's consider the adoptions of the committee meeting minutes. So if you look at action item one.
I move approval. I read them.
Yep, I read them, so I'll second. Is that all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, item number two. The 2026 meeting schedule. I've already calendared everything, so I have no objection to the dates.
Good by me.
And I'll ask a question. Is everybody okay with the 2 p.m.?
Fine by me.
Okay. All right. So do we have a motion to accept the new dates?
I move to accept the calendar for 2026.
And second?
Adopt the calendar.
And I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All opposed? The ayes have it.
And
Go ahead.
just for the record, I did not get any comments from Chair Paul, whether or not, the dates, she had any questions or concerns about the dates. And Director Gawain also agreed that she could be available as the alternate if needed for the calendar dates.
Okay. So if we do need to amend it, we can do it either at the next meeting or at some point. Action item 3. Jonathan, is that your job? Action item 3? Is this you presenting this to us?
Indeed.
And Director Gawain has just joined the meeting.
Oh, excellent.
Getting my agenda. Which one is this one, Dave?
This is item 3.
The partnering with the Seaside Watermaster.
Okay. Yes, this one. The memo I wrote is pretty explanatory. I tried to kind of lay it out in a chronological fashion. There was a series of wells that were installed by the Seaside Watermaster along the coastline in what was the former Army base that is now state parks. They're called the Sentinel Wells. They are to sit and look and watch for seawater intrusion. They were adopted with a slightly different application of technology than traditional monitor wells. Usually a traditional monitor well cluster, you will drill wells to different depths and target different aquifer zones so you can collect water quality samples out of those different zones, and there you're getting monitoring of different depths and different aquifer strata. These wells, however, were drilled just one deep well at each location with the idea of using geophysics, or what's called induction logging. It gives you, I've included it as an example, one of the induction logs. It gives you basically the conductivity of the pore water and the rocks, where clays are more conductive and sandstones, for example, are less conductive. So it's a tool that we use as geologists to kind of understand the strata, a better idea of the strata by collecting an actual geophysical measurement from it. However, if we start seeing higher levels of conductivity in repeated logs, the rocks aren't changing, so therefore the pore fluid must be getting saltier. So that's why we go out and we log these wells every year to try to watch for this signal. In Sentinel Well 4, which is the southernmost well, we're starting to see some possible signs of increasing conductivity over the past 5 years in the 150 to 200 foot strata zone. Um, the idea was if you saw that from the report, and I put that recommendation in my staff note, that you would use this signal to tell you where to go and drill an actual traditional monitor well so you could start taking samples of that zone. So it's a way to target your monitoring to areas you think you're seeing changes. And so it's time to take that recommendation and to move in and drill a traditional monitor well in the 150 to 200 foot range to screen it in that so we can collect samples from that. The Watermaster, it's their well network. However, the district also has the same mission of protecting the water resources in the area within its boundary. And so it was thought that by district staff that it would be a perfect opportunity to partner with the Watermaster and cost share on something that was an asset that we both can use for that. So we would like to get a recommendation from this committee that the full board write a letter to state parks because they now own that well, and we need to educate them that the methodology that was set up back when these wells were drilled was to possibly reoccupy them and drill wells around them. We think now is a good time to approach them and to move ahead because there's so much construction already going on that parcel with the campground that's being built in. So we think that we could get some traction if our board were to write a letter to state parks asking for permission to move forward with this project.
Any questions?
No question from me. I excuse me for saying no questions, but I just thought about one. So if are they going to let us drill a well on their property? And if they own that well, how come they ain't help paying for it?
Good question.
If the district and the water master were to drill the well, the district and the water master would be the owners of the well. We do need, that's what we want to ask for permission for, is the right to drill on lands owned by state parks. But if the water master and the district were to pay for the well, that would be jointly owned by both the water master and it would not be a well that state parks could, put a pump into it and like use it to produce water. It would be a monitor well.
And I do have a few questions because I'm rather new to the committee, the water supply plant. Well, new to asking questions. You said that this is starting to show signs of intrusion in, is it the well number 4, the one that's the furthest south?
Correct. And
And
I wouldn't clarify it as signs of intrusion. We're seeing signs of increasing conductivity, which means the pore fluid might be getting saltier, but we need to drill a well so we can collect a water sample because we need to know what the actual chemistry of that water is. If it's actually coming from the ocean, it'll have a very specific chemical signal. If it's say seeping down from the intruded layer above it, it'll have a different chemical signal. So we need this to do some more diagnostic work. So it's just kind of the next scientific step.
okay, and this new well would go somewhere near that well number 4?
That's what we would be asking so well number 4 was actually installed in the yard of what used to be a sewage lift station that was owned by Marina Coast. And so that lift station has been decommissioned and taken off the premises. And so it's just a well that's in the middle of a, they're letting it rewild is what they're calling it. So they're letting the vegetation grow back. So we would want to put something near that.
Okay. And if you find evidence, this similar evidence in the other 3 wells, would you require something there as well in the future? I mean, down the line?
Um, There are signals of increasing conductivity in well 1 and well 2 that are owned by the water master, but well 1 and well 2 are not in the Seaside groundwater basin. They're in the Marina Coast basin, so it would likely be Marina Coast that would use that information and kind of work on those wells. But we do not see the signal in Sentinel well 3, which is the Sentinel well 4 and 3 are the ones that are in the Seaside basin.
Got it. And do we have sorry for all of these questions, but is there like a contingency in place if the state park happens to say no?
There is unfortunately not. So
Okay,
that's why we wanted to try to have our board reach out to them and kind of communicate the importance of this for the basin protection and water supply.
got it. And my last question is, and this is just purely logistics, is this something that might help us or benefit us in the future should a desalination plant be put up to help us with intrusion into the Seaside water basin?
It would not be, it would purely be to get water chemistry from this zone, and then we would be watching this zone, and it would be something where water samples would be collected at a frequency. Let's say you got regardless of the source of water supply project, you got a water supply project that was allowing for the payback of the Seaside groundwater basin, which is required by Cal-Am to pay back their overpumping in the adjudication decision. Should a source of water become available that allows that to happen, this well would be useful in seeing the effect on seawater intrusion if there is any of that payback.
Got it. Got it. All right, those are all of my questions. Anybody else?
Here's another one for you. I see on the staff report, $60,000. Is that our portion or is that the total cost of the well?
That is from a back of the envelope estimate that I got calling around for different drillers. And I was told for a 4-inch well, monitor well of this status, to use $400 per linear foot as a ballpark estimate. And so that's for the total well. So ours would be half of this cost.
Okay, we need to put that in a staff report.
Okay.
So well, I see 30,000, well, 60,000 for the total, but I see our portion 30,000 or whatever it's going to be. And
Yeah, for clarification, it's 80,000, not 60, and ours will be 40.
okay, so that means Cal-Am and Seaside supposed to come up with the rest, right? Or well, they sit on the water master board, so.
Yeah, it would be in coordination with the water master board or the water master budget. And so it would go through the budget, and Cal-Am, as you said, and Seaside sit on the water master board, and then they fund the water master at the rates, the percentage rates that are outlined in the adjudication decision. But you're right. I think your logic is getting you to the portion that the Seaside Water Master would pay would mainly be paid by largely be paid by Cal-Am.
Right, right. So I just want to ease the pain of the public when they see this one.
And Director Edwards, you are correct that 60,000 was incorrectly put in the header in the
right. I don't mind the 6,000, but just break it down where we can see what our cost is. So on that, I think think I had one more. You stepped in there and I forgot it. So, okay.
John, while we're here, you see in the title block of the staff report, the cost estimate was 60, but in the body of the report, it's the 80. So we're going to have to clean that up.
Yeah, I changed it because I was using 300 and then I was told 400 and I didn't catch that.
Yep.
Oh, are we going to put this on the side? My question was, are we going to put this on the side? Because I see item number 5, I think it is 4 or 5. We're going to be asking for a grant or something from.
Right. Yeah. So we would go ahead and get started as soon as State Parks agrees to let us go ahead. And then if we're successful with the grant application, that won't come home to roost until about this time next year. And so we would reimburse ourselves.
Okay.
That's good to know. So our recommendation would be that the board is going to write a letter to the state parks seeking permission to install that monitor well.
Correct. Yes.
All right. So do we have a motion?
You just made it,
didn't you?
Did you just make that motion?
Okay, I can make the motion. I move that we recommend that the board write a letter to state parks seeking permission to install a monitor well near the Sentinel Well 4.
Yeah.
And to share the cost with the Seaside Watermaster.
Okay.
So moved.
Great. And John, we'll rewrite this and just put it on consent for the full board.
Did we have a second? Alvin, did you second?
Yeah, I thought the other director was going to step in there, so I'll second it. Move it on.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Marianne?
Oh, I'm an alternate. Do I vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you and me too.
Okay, I'm aye.
Perfect.
Is that the view from your patio?
A little bit of a cheat.
Hey, did you have any questions? Since you're the alternate, you can ask questions too.
Oh, okay, that's good. No, I think you covered it. It's good.
Okay.
It's interesting.
All right.
Marianne is outstanding in her field. All right, so the ayes have it. Let's move to number 4, the Urban Water Management Plan. Maureen, you're on.
Awesome. I'm going to try to share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes.
Awesome. So what is an urban water management plan? Well, it's basically a long-term planning document required by the state to ensure that there are adequate water supplies over the planning horizon. There is state code dictating what needs to be in the plans, and that state code is provided for reference. Some of the key requirements are that every water supplier who supplies 3,000 or more acre feet or provides service to 3,000 or more connections is required to write these urban water management plans. The plans are due this cycle by July 1st of 2026, and it gets updated every 5 years in years ending 6 and 1. The reports or the plans are submitted to DWR, who must deem them complete, and the timing of the data presented by code is allowed to be presented on a fiscal or calendar year basis. We choose fiscal because we don't really use calendar years in water accounting here. What is the applicability to the district? Well, we wholesale Pure Water Monterey, 5750 soon acre feet a year to California American Water. In starting this process of the urban water management plan and going through the code, and DWR publishes a guideline for every urban water management plan cycle, we found that some of our other roles also apply to this plan. The first is our conservation and rationing regulations. Additionally, we operate and manage ASR injection. In particular, we track the amount of ASR water that's in storage because we're on the injection end. We retail Pebble Beach and Carmel Area Wastewater District Reclamation Project water. We provide a selling function to 12 different entities in the Del Monte Forest. However, because that volume is less than 3,000 acre feet a year and there are less than 3,000 customers, we write our plan as a wholesaler, which has different requirements than writing our plan as an urban water retailer. So what are the components of an urban water management plan? Well, the first is a comparison of supply and demand, and it really takes a fairly broad horizon going from our current situation with supply and demand, looking at a normal year, looking at one dry year, and then looking at 5 consecutive dry years. And I'm going to talk about supply and demand, I believe, in a couple slides. Additionally, there are 2 assessments that are part of the Urban Water Management Plan, an annual water shortage assessment and a drought risk assessment. I'll also talk about those in a few slides. Lastly, the Urban Water Management Plan provides a fairly in-depth discussion on the demand management measures taken in the district, and something called the Water Shortage Contingency Plan will define procedures to be followed in the event of a water shortage. I'll go into more detail on that in a couple of slides, but these are the overarching components. So don't we kind of already do this? And the answer is yes. The general manager has a huge hand in planning with his supply and demand projections. They utilize the 25-year forecast for growth issued by AMBAG. The most recent supply and demand forecast was used in the CPUC supply and demand proceeding that just ended in 2025. We also have a quarterly water budget that John Lear brings to the board for approval and subsequent adoption. We have regulatory authority over water conservation, rationing, and we have a regulation that defines our enforcement capability. Lastly, we monitor all of the planning and on a fairly frequent basis. Every month at the board meeting, the general manager presents his monthly usage reports, and staff every quarter hosts what we call a quarterly water operations meeting, where all of the folks with a hand in water supply on the peninsula meet with our regulators to look at the preceding quarter and kind of look at what's coming up to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So the first component we talked about earlier was supply and demand. And one of the items required by the water code is that water retailers and their wholesalers have to coordinate. Well, we did this for almost 4 years in the water supply and demand hearing with the proceeding with the CPUC. So we met that requirement. And how we look at supply and demand, I'm going to see if I can get a pointer going. Is we have storage, we have annual delivery, and we take out what we used from that supply. The use is also termed demand. It's kind of used interchangeably through the Urban Water Management Plan process. If that value is negative, we've got more demand than supply. If that value is positive, we've got more supply than demand. The laser pointer doesn't let me click to advance, so I'm going to go ahead and do this. And where we are with the supplies that we have a hand in is Pure Water Monterey. Beginning in 2035, we'll have for sure 2875 acre feet in storage. It might be more than that. Annual delivery is the 5750, and that is the same as the use. ASR this water year will have 5,000 acre-feet in storage. Annual delivery on average is 1210 a year, realizing that in wet years, with all the injection wells available, will be well over 2,000. And in dry years, we may be as low as 100 acre-feet for the year. Now, how is ASR water used? Well, it's recovered from storage, and that's kind of hard to predict without doing a little more work, which I'll show in the next slide. Lastly, the reclamation project is fairly straightforward in that whatever cod can produce, the buyers in the Del Monte Forest will use. So back to figuring out what volume of ASR will be required to be produced from storage. Well, in order to figure that out, we had to look at the overall annual supplies. This is everything that's required to serve the public. Then the demand that is, again, for the overall Monterey Peninsula service area. So if the supply minus the demand is positive, we don't have to take anything out of storage. If the supply minus the demand is negative, we have to take out of storage. So in evaluating the benefits of different approaches, we consider storage benefits as being a drought-resistant supply. It's an emergency supply, and it's also good groundwater basin management. So we just want to get that benefit in there real quick before we start talking about the total annual supplies for the peninsula. Of course, there's the river. We left out table 13 because it's relatively speaking a new supply, even though it averages over 250 acre-feet a year. Some years it won't be that. There is Malpaso water right water that is wheeled to the Caliam service area. The Seaside Groundwater Basin has an annual allotment of over 1,400 acre-feet. We've assumed that a payback from Caliam's historical overpumping of 700 acre-feet a year would begin in this 25-year planning horizon we're using. Additionally, there's wheeled Seaside Groundwater Basin water. Sand City in the CPUC decision had a value of 94 acre-feet. That value in a 2010 decision is the amount that can be used to reduce Caliam's draw on the Carmel River. It was supposed to be the amount that's beneficial to the peninsula. The rest of it would go to Sand City's future development. Sand City is in Caliam's service area. So we're using the value in Caliam's most recent general rate case testimony, in which they said they spoke with their operations group and project Sand City supplies to be 200 acre-feet a year. We also have Pure Water Monterey. For demand, this is going to be exactly what we did in the supply and demand proceeding. Is we're going to use the 2026 draft AMBAG forecast, where they predict the residential and non-residential growth. Those growth factors get factored or get applied to the residential and non-residential use. We're not considering people moving here with the housing that has to be built for them, and we're not considering non-residential growth with tourism bounce back to pre-2009 recession values. So what did this analysis show in terms of ASR water that needs to be recovered from storage? It came out as 0 over the 25-year planning horizon for normal conditions. And I think now might be a good opportunity to pause and ask if there are any questions on the supply and demand portion, or if you'd rather keep moving and ask questions at the end. Keep moving.
Keep moving.
Keep
All
moving.
right. I spoke earlier about the assessments. There's the annual water shortage assessment. It looks at the current year and one subsequent dry year. This is not dissimilar to what we already do in Rule 160. So it'll look very similar. It's just this we're going to do. It's due July 1st of every year and is to be filed with DWR. There's the drought risk assessment where there are 5 consecutive drought years. That 5-year drought is applied 2 different ways. It's applied at each 5-year marker of our 25-year horizon, and it's also applied between the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan date of 2025 through 2029 to make sure we've got enough for a short term or an immediate 5-year drought. Going through the annual water shortage assessment and the drought risk assessment in the Urban Water Management Plan, there's a lot of extra water. If we save the stored water supplies by using supplies that can't be stored. So the water shortage contingency plan that I spoke about earlier, well, what is it? It's the water shortage contingency plan are kind of one yet separate with the Urban Water Management Plan. It's a separate standalone, but it has to be adopted separately, but it's required by the Urban Water Management Plan Water Code. It's similar to our Rule 160 and Regulation, excuse me, 15. Now I'm catching it. It's required to be updated every 5 years, but the board can opt to update it more often as needed. And it again is due July 1st along with the Urban Water Management Plan. Excuse me. So MPWMD has 4 conservation and rationing stages. DWR requires 6. We're allowed to map our 4 stages to DWR 6. Second, we take our conservation and rationing actions and map those to the shortage response actions, basically creating a menu of what conservation actions need to happen if there is a near-term water supply shortage. This will only apply if at the remainder of the year plus 1 dry year, we find that we don't have enough water supply. What is the status of all this? The internal draft is written. It's been reviewed by staff. It's being reviewed by Kennedy Jenks, who's helping us write the Urban Water Management Plan. The board approved their contract last May. Our current phase is introducing the Urban Water Management Plan to the committees because it's kind of a lengthy document. And the overall status or the overall process forward is in the upper left. You see that we provide notice to jurisdictions. You have to provide notice to cities and counties 60 days in advance of as soon as possible board meeting where we have the public hearing. That's been done. We're currently introducing to the committees. And we're hoping to have a board workshop in April, Dave. Awesome. At which point a public draft becomes available. We enter a public review period in advance of the public hearing in May. After we get everybody's input, we write the final draft and have it submitted before July 1st. For public outreach, notice goes to the jurisdiction. It's already gone out 60 days in advance of the public hearing. And we'll go ahead and send it out to the jurisdictions again when the public draft is available on our website. We have a notice of public hearing, public contract code 6066, where we have to publish in a locally circulated newspaper 2 weeks and 1 week in advance of the public hearing. We have the public hearing and then submit it to the land use agencies after DWR has approved our final plan. And that's all I have. Are there any questions?
I have one, probably a couple of them if they come up, but go back to that slide where it says we have extra water. If you can find that.
I will. It's easier if I do it another way. This one?
No, the one that you had wrote out there, we have extra water.
There you go.
There, yeah, the spoiler right there. Is that a report to spoiler? There is a lot of extra water supply?
Yep.
I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't follow.
Okay, is there a report out there saying that there is a lot of extra water supply? Or are we just saying it?
Nope, there will be, and all the numbers will be there.
Okay,
is-
so
It's
what
a
do we
future
have to,
condition, Alvin. It'll be a
Huh?
future condition. We'll have extra water in the future.
And we kind of have extra water now. We haven't needed to take any ASR water from storage since 2020. And we've just added an additional 2,250 acre feet. Well, we will be adding the whole 2,250 acre feet soon. There's water going into storage.
okay, the reason why I brought that up again, not to take us off this one, but the biggest thing we're trying to do is get off the CDO, and I'm listening to y'all, and I want some of that, what you just said, that put in that report about the CDO.
It is already in there.
Okay, so when I read that final report, whatever we do for the state, you know, I like to see something like that in it.
You'll see.
Hey, go ahead.
You'll see the estimate of how much storage builds over a 25-year horizon.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
so just to stay on that subject for a little bit. So in the urban water management plan, it will become evident. CalAm will be filing its own urban water management plan, and they will have their supply and demand numbers, which will show less surplus, less going to storage. However, they do file an annual supply and demand assessment. And for each year of the previous 4 years, they have been including the ASR storage as stored water, which, because as Maureen said, we haven't had to tap ASR for a number of years, it's been showing a gradual increase in a surplus position in their annual filings to the state. In the CDO application for modification, we included those annual state reports as an exhibit. And we also included the Public Utilities Commission numbers on supply and demand. And we showed what would happen. And you see the capitalized if, the bottom line on this slide, that even with the PUC numbers, which we don't agree with, we think they're also overinflated in terms of demand. But even with those PUC numbers, there would be stored water building up for a period of time that would give us adequate supplies for about 21 years. So they're seeing the messaging at the State Water Board about surplus. And the only source of supply that, if not utilized, doesn't result in storage is the Carmel River water right. You know, that's kind of a use it or lose it proposition. But if you don't pump seaside native water, it builds up as carryover water. So it's stored for a future use, future year. And then any of the ASR injection is stored water until it's utilized. And then the pure water reserves. And you may remember the discussion with the board last go around was, yeah, go ahead, take as much as you can to get it in storage, you know, front run it while we've got it. And so we're going to begin to put water into the operating reserve next month. And before this fiscal year is over, also into the drought reserve, which is a fully discretionary reserve that we could use in the event of a drought. So I don't believe that CalAm wants people to realize that there's stored water. And but the messaging is such that it'll appear in this report. It's already appeared in the application to the state. So,
okay, thank you.
Yep.
And I would like to see this report disseminated through the public outreach committee as well, so that we can get this information to the people in a language that they can understand and, see that we're doing our job and that we're monitoring this and we've got them covered, essentially.
Yeah, I think when we get to the public hearing, the workshop for the board, the public hearing, somewhere in between there will include public outreach.
Yeah, excellent. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a couple. Really basic. So maybe I've seen it somewhere, but remind me, the dry year is like what percentile, how dry, and the 5 consecutive dry years, how dry are the dry years?
They're in the statistical bottom 25% of all Carmel River runoff volumes.
Okay. And let's see, what was my other question was, just trying to understand the point you were making, and I don't know, maybe Dave alluded to this as well. You were talking about sources that can't be stored. You made a comment like you're going to use all the water from sources that can't be stored. What?
I think that has to be figured out.
Yeah. So what's happening is the what's called a Table 13 water right is what we refer to as an interruptible water right, meaning it's not there all the time.
Right. Okay.
The Carmel River based water right is, I refer to it as use it or lose it, but you have access to 3,376 acre feet per year, but the company never wants to exceed that inadvertently. So it's highly likely that they'll never be right on that number. Sometimes without good planning, they could be 900 acre feet off, which was kind of where they were 3-4 years ago, I think, at this point. But typically they would be 10 to 20 to 30 acre feet short, which means every year there's 10 to 20, 30 acre feet that's just going to go out to the ocean.
Right.
But there's also always been Table 13 diversion since that project came online.
Yeah.
Which isn't counted.
Yep.
Yeah. On that side, I see we got Sand City at 94 too. What are we talking about there?
I tried to show that I crossed out Sand City. We're not using 94 because that's, again, from a 2010 decision about the volume of Sand City that can benefit or offset illegal diversions from the river. But everything Sand City produces goes to the CalAm service area. So yeah. I can remove that and make it clearer for the next committee.
Yes.
Yeah, and in the most recent Public Utilities Commission hearing where they landed on the supply and demand numbers, they only count 94 acre feet from the Sand City plant, and they counted 0 for Malpaso. The fact of the matter is, when CalAm submits its reports to the State Water Board annually, they include whatever Sand City produced, and currently that's averaging closer to about 165 acre feet per year, but we're saying in the future with final construction and permitting of a replacement well, it should run at 200 acre feet. And Malpaso, year in and year out, they have reported that they've used the full complement of 86 acre feet per year. And the disconnect in CalAm's methodology is they say, oh, well, Malpaso is only going to be used by the rights holders who purchase it. But to date, only about, I think it's less than 30 acre feet have come through here for a permit, but they continue to produce 86 acre feet. Same thing with Sand City desal. Yes, it has to be dedicated to Sand City demand And so eventually Sand City could say, all right, we're building another hotel, we're building housing and so forth. But it's still going to pass through a CalAm meter, and that future Sand City demand is CalAm demand.
Yep.
And so CalAm has kind of conveniently forgotten that it's their meter and it's their customer. So just because it's dedicated to a specific type of customer doesn't mean it's not a future demand of CalAm's. And so we, the district, have figured that out, and we count all of the supply that's available as serving a eventual CalAm customer. And if Sand City doesn't get to the 200, yet they can produce 200, then it's going somewhere else. It's going to a Seaside customer, it's going to a Monterey customer. So this concept of balancing available supply with available demands works. And CalAm is actually incorrect in saying, oh, well, we can only count 94 acre feet, because eventually, if all of it is used for a CalAm customer somewhere.
And Dave, I think, and Maria will say this, I think these are the numbers that are going to be contested in our urban water management plan and in CalAm's urban water management plan. They're not going to agree to some of our numbers, and we're not going to agree with some of their numbers, and that's okay.
Yeah, good point.
I do have one other question, Maureen. I read somewhere that this includes potable and non-potable water information.
It does. The state requires discussion on potable and non-potable supplies. In our plan, we're addressing the potable and non-potable supplies that we have a hand in.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions?
When is this going to the board? Next month?
We'll have the workshop in April. I'm trying to figure out where my there we go. Am I still sharing?
Yes.
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 So we will have the workshop in April. There it is. And we'll be taking to water demand, I think, next month. Is that right, David and Mike?
So this is in addition to the workshop that we're having on Friday this week.
Right, and it won't be a separate workshop. It'll be part of the regular board meeting in April.
Oh, okay. All right. Alvin, did that answer your question?
Oh, yeah, that answered it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Maureen, for the detailed information. It helps me understand it better. Thank you so much. Item 5, federal earmark request. I think this is you, Dave.
Well, I guess I'll take it. Mike's been doing all the work on it, but you may recall that earmarks were reinstated in 2023. They're no longer called earmarks. They're called either congressionally directed spending or community project funding. And on the House side, there's a limit of 15 per member of the House. On the Senate side, there is no limit. And so in the past couple of years, we've made an earmark request that has made it through both Senator Padilla and Senator Schiff's office. And those were for what's called environmental infrastructure under the Army Corps of Engineering funding. This year, having not had those appropriated for 2 years, we decided to steer away from it and steer instead in this direction of a kind of a repair and replacement program for the monitoring wells in the Seaside Basin. And so the Exhibit 5A was a draft. It's changed substantially in look and feel, but the text is still basically the same. And so in it was described at least 2 replacement wells and then the potential for up to 7. And if we get it funded, then we will be in a position to, I mean, these are assets that are 30 plus years old at this point. So we'll be in a position to upgrade that whole monitoring network. And I think when we meet on Friday for our strategic planning workshop, one of the items Mike is going to lead us to is, at what point do we elevate the Seaside Basin infrastructure and need for protective water levels? And so this would be kind of the first phase of protecting the asset in the ground, the groundwater basin, because that's where Pure Water Monterey is going, that's where ASR is stored. And it really, even though we've been in disagreement as to how much protective water, if any, is needed, because again, the surplus that we're showing in the urban water management plan also has the same effect of protecting the seaside groundwater water levels. But anyway, the very first step in any protective scheme on the Seaside Basin would be having money to upgrade or protect the existing monitoring well network. And so we're applying for this money this week. The portals will close shortly, and so we're in the process of getting letters of support that Mike has been working on obtaining. And if we are lucky enough to get funded, what has to happen is kind of it's a 2-step process. The representatives or the senators have to deem them worth their time and put in the request, and then they have to get through a committee, and then the committee's list goes to the appropriations subcommittee. Senate has one and the House has one. And so if it makes it all the way through the appropriations committee and gets funded, it'll be money available for fiscal 2027.
Any questions?
None for me.
I have a question. This money, the funding is going to help with the upgrade of, I'm assuming, wells 3 and 4 of the Seaside.
Yeah, well, so let's see, we've got.
Well, we talked briefly about Sentinel well number 4.
Yeah, I think 4 is the only one we've identified in the specific request for the earmark. And so that's when I earlier said we'd reimburse ourselves. We could choose to reimburse ourselves or maybe expand the project. But it'll be up to John Lear and his team to really identify where it should go.
So that segues to my next question. We talked about reimbursing ourselves. This is where that reimbursement money would come from for our half of the new monitoring well. Okay.
Correct. So we're in effect asking the good people of Wyoming and Iowa to help fund our wells.
They have all that extra snow.
Yeah.
Then it does require a 20% match if we were to get it. So in the application, the district may have to help come up with like $187,000. That's kind of be the match if we were to get the $750,000 that we requested. And so a lot of that match can be, staff time, and we may have to include some of the, previous costs of drilling the Sentinel well or whatever, we deem eligible for that other cost share.
Sounds good to me. Alvin, any questions? Marianne, any questions?
Now I'll make a motion, move approval to recommend this to the board.
I can.
I'm not sure this is an action item, but so noted. Discussion item.
Yeah.
So it doesn't call for a vote, correct? I'm pretty sure it doesn't call for a vote.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So let's move on to item 6. Sorry, I'm joining everybody and losing my voice.
Yeah, this item
revisions.
Yeah, and this item relates directly back to the Urban Water Management Plan. Maureen alluded to an appendix to that plan is called the Water Shortage Contingency Plan. And the Water Shortage Contingency Plan basically tracks our 4 stages of drought response to the desired 6 stages of the state. And our 4 stages are actually triggered by certain indicators, which previously had been all based on stored water in the Seaside Groundwater Basin, plus available, okay, I shouldn't say stored water, but it's water that's sitting in the aquifer. And so you may recall, experienced board members, that every May we do an assessment of how much water is available to meet the remainder of the water year plus the following water year, and do we have a problem? Well, because of the addition of Pure Water Monterey and the storage of ASR water and a little bit of Malpaso and Sand City water, it's all the available supplies are now more than just the Monterey Peninsula Water Resource System, which is, again, kind of the aquifer under the river and the Seaside Groundwater Basin. So our triggers need to kind of be improved to match the times, you know, the sources that are available. So we're going to go through the rules that were summarized at the bottom of the staff report and revise them to be based on supply rather than physical storage. And then that'll be put into an ordinance and brought to the board, preferably in the March board meeting.
Perfect. Any questions?
No, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Clean it up.
Living document. Yeah.
So
well, what's interesting too is when we applied to modify the CDO,
yes,
we gave them a methodology that they could use, and it's really a 2-prong methodology. One is you would look at all the available supplies and compare it to the then previous year demand. And if your previous year demand is at 80% of your available supplies, then we need to report to the State Water Board that we're getting close. And then the State Water Board could make an assessment of, well, do you have a plan for additional supplies? And if you do, then maybe they don't touch things. But if we don't, then maybe they say, oh, it's time to reinstate the cease and desist order because you're coming too close to your available supply limit. But the second test is going to be looking at a 5-year trailing average, which will tell you how fast we've been growing. And then you can take that growth rate based on the prior year demand and say, well, realistically, those 2 lines aren't going to cross for 13 years because the growth rate isn't that significant. So we're not as close to our available supplies as you would imagine. Those triggers that we've proposed to the State Water Board should really be the same as the triggers that we have here in these rules. So it'll start to bring everything kind of to the same basis.
Good.
Good.
Any other questions?
None from me.
For me, Marianne?
No.
No? Good. So now, any suggested items to be placed on a future agenda?
Yes, a discussion over what the next water supply could be, it could not be.
Are you talking about source?
Say again?
Are you talking about source? Like what was the next water supply source?
Yes, yes. Next water supply source could be or not could be. Probably talk a little bit more about that on Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we need to put something out there.
And I know that I'm new to this game relatively, and I have not done a deep dive into the district's website, but is there some place that shows all of the wells that we have and
Yeah, sort of. So on the seaside, we just actually switched the website to match this grant request for the earmarks.
uh-huh.
So if you were to go to our website and over to water supply and then down to Seaside Basin, what you'll see is this almost the same verbiage about what is the program we're doing. But then there's two little graphics on there, one for what's called the Paso Robles or the shallow aquifer, and one for the Santa Margarita or the deeper aquifer. And it shows potential zones for seawater intrusion.
Got it.
And the monitoring wells are shown on that diagram. On the river, there's a whole series of wells up the river, and I know that graphic is in there somewhere, and it might be a link. It might not be super obvious, but I'll look for it after this meeting, and I'll send you the link.
Yeah. All right, that's all of my questions. Anybody else?
None from me.
Any other comments, questions?
I'm saving it for Friday.
Naming of your firstborn child, anything like that?
All good.
Thank you, everyone. Dave, Mike, Mary
Good
Ann,
job there, Vice Chair.
Thank
Sarah,
you all.
Maureen, everybody
See you
else.
Friday.
See you Friday.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.